What up? It's your boy Wall Street, and I'm back. And today, talking about the NBA draft, because we are in May, people, which means the draft lottery is less than 2 weeks away. I'm very excited. You guys know me, big Washington Wizards fan, the biggest Washington Wizards fan, maybe. And I'm ready to get that number one pick. I'm ready for Cooper Flagg to be a Washington Wizard. I'm ready for it. But today, we're talking about his teammate at Duke, Kon Knueppel. I believe I'm saying that right now. I've heard announcers say it, quite a few times, so I think I'm getting there. If not, correct me in the comments. Let me know what it is. But I want to talk about this dude because he's projected to go very high in the draft. He's projected to be a top 6 or 7 pick in the draft, right? And I think this is interesting because this is a very deep draft class. And it's not that I don't think he's going to be a good player, but right now he's projected to go 6th overall on Tankathon, which will get him to the Brooklyn Nets if the lottery odds play out exactly how they're imagined right now. And I do think he's going to be a good player in the NBA, but I don't really see him as much more than a shooter. I think we can call him a scorer. I think he's a little bit more than just a shooter, but I still don't think he's a guy that, I feel like a top 6 pick is typically a guy that, has all-star potential for your team, right? And a lot of those guys don't wind up being all-stars, but they wind up getting close. But I don't know if his defense is going to amount to being, effective in the NBA. I don't really know if, I don't know if his ability to create shots like he did in college is going to translate as much. I just don't think he's as agile as a lot of defenders in the NBA. And who knows, maybe he'll prove me wrong, and I hope he does, right? I hope this guy proves me wrong and shows everyone that he's better than expected, better than advertised, right? But let's dive into it. So Kon Knueppel was at Duke with Cooper Flagg, freshman. He declared for the draft. I believe he was the first player from Duke to declare for the draft, but I believe now Cooper, Kon, and Kaman Maluak have all declared. They're all likely going to be top 10 picks. But so Kon Knueppel is from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, went to Duke, and he was a decently high recruit, coming out of high school. He was the 19th overall recruit for ESPN's recruiting class. I believe he was the 2024 recruiting class. Yeah. I'm getting that right. 5-star recruit on Rivals, 24/7 Sports, 4-star on ESPN. And, he had a really good season, right? Obviously, Duke, I think, wanted to go further in, the tournament. They did not make it as far as they wanted to. But, now these guys are on to bigger and better things, ready to be drafted into the NBA. So shout out to them. But so Kon was the basically second option, right, to Cooper Flagg. He was the second leading scorer on the team, played 39 games for Duke, 14.4 points per game, 4 rebounds, 2.7 assists, 1 steal, 0.2 blocks, 47.9% from the field, 91.4% from the free throw line, and 40.6% from 3. So all around, really good shooter, shooting, 45 plus, 90 plus from the free throw line, and 40% from 3. That's incredible. So he's going to be a good shooter in the league, right? At the very minimum, he's going to be a good shooter. And I do think the way he moves off the ball is just absolutely incredible. He's got a lot of really good traits to be a good shooter in the NBA, for sure, right? Because you can't just be a good shooter. You have to be able to move well off the ball and, be able to create your own shot to some extent, even without dribbling the ball, right? So as far as a player comp, because that's really what I want to talk about in this video, I think I've heard a lot of different comps. So I've heard people say Cam Johnson. I've heard people say Kevin Huerter. I've heard people say Corey Kispert. I've also seen people, there was one, I think it was on DraftNet, it had two comps, and it said Chris Mullin / Jared Dudley, which, if you're a big NBA fan, there's a big difference between Chris Mullin and Jared Dudley. It's kind of like on 2K when you're drafting players, and it's like the player's ceiling is like, Michael Jordan, and then the floor is like, I don't know, like Bruce Brown. It's just like really random. You never know like what exactly someone's going to turn out to be. And shout out Bruce Brown, helped the Nuggets win that chip. So shout out Bruce. But I personally think I could see the Jared Dudley comparison a lot, right? And that's kind of why, I go back to thinking like, are you really taking Jared Dudley with the 6th overall pick in a very stacked draft class? Like, I don't really think that makes a lot of sense. Jared Dudley was a first round pick, but he was 22nd overall, right? So it's just I don't really know, right? And Jared Dudley, obviously great shooter, 39% from 3 for his career, but only like 7 points a game, right? So he's a key piece to a championship team, right? He was on that Lakers 2020 championship team that won in the bubble. But is that a team, like Brooklyn? Is a team like Brooklyn wanting to take a guy like that? Or do they take someone like Kaman Maluak, who might have a higher ceiling? Do they take someone like Jeremiah Fears, who might have a higher ceiling, right? Or Derek Queen, or even Kasparas Yakuchonis from Illinois? Like, there's a lot of different options that I think you could go with that at this point, in terms of just how I've evaluated it, that might have a higher ceiling than Kon Knueppel. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to achieve that, right? You never know. The NBA draft is a total shot in the dark. You never know what you're going to get when you pick a player, right? Like, just think about Anthony Bennett when he was the number 1 overall pick in 2013. People thought this dude was going to be the next Larry Johnson. And he was out of the league in like 4 or 5 years. Like, it's just, you really never know, right? So, but I think with Kon Knueppel, there is some safety in that pick because the dude is just a pure shooter, really good shooter. So at the very least, you're getting a guy who can come in and just hit open shots for you, right? But I feel like if you're picking in the top 5, the top 6, the top 7, right, even in the top 10, you're like trying to hit it out of the park, right? And I don't really know if you hit it out of the park with this dude. We really won't know until he plays in the NBA. We see what he can do. Because there's a possibility I'm all wrong and he scores 20 points a game as a rookie. Who knows, right? I think a lot of people are kind of asking the same questions that I'm kind of asking. Is it's like, this dude's a good shooter, but what else is he really bringing to the table? Coming into the league, right? Is he going to be able to defend? Is he going to be able to, make plays, with the ball in his hands rather than just catching and shooting or moving, with off-ball screens to get open and hit open shots, right? What is he going to be able to do? Is he going to be a versatile player, or is he going to be a guy that can be limited if you just face guard him the whole game, right? There's questions here, right? And again, I think he can be a good contributing player. I don't know if he has star potential or all-star potential at this point in time, right? But I think he could turn out to be similar to Harrison Barnes. I don't think he's going to be like Klay Thompson, because I think Klay Thompson had an elite level defense, or I should say elite defensive ability, in his prime, right? Which I don't think Kon Knueppel has. I think he could develop it, right? Because Klay Thompson really just came in the league as a shooter, right? No one was really talking about his defense until later on, a couple years into his career. So who knows? Things could change, right? But if I had to pick a comp right now, honestly, I'm probably saying Jared Dudley or JJ Redick, right? I'm saying one of those guys, again, very useful players and necessary players to winning teams, but neither of them were star players, right? And that's okay. Not everyone in the NBA can be a star. And again, I could be totally wrong. Who knows? But that's just kind of my take on things. So I want to know what you guys think, though. Do you think These are accurate player comps for Kon Knueppel. If you have a player comp in mind, please leave your comment with that comp down below. I would love to know what you think. And we're going to find out where he gets drafted. Obviously, once the draft lottery shakes out on May 12th, it's going to be, it's going to be a lot more, solidified where guys are going to go in the draft. Obviously, Cooper Flagg is going to be the number one pick. Everyone and their mother knows that. But after that, it gets a little interesting. I would say Dylan Harper's probably a lock for the second pick. And then, 3, 4, 5, I think they could switch up. I think Ace Bailey's probably going to be the third pick, but, there's a lot of things that could change. We still have about a month and a half until the draft. We have the combine. We have a lot of things, individual workouts with teams, interviews with teams. So a lot of things can change. Guys can rise up the boards and they can fall down the boards. So we'll see what happens. But that's my take on Kon Knueppel. I'm excited to see where he lands in the draft. And like I said, leave some comments down below. I want to know your thoughts. So I'm going to catch you later, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. And I'm going to catch you later, man. Stay safe. Stay blessed. Stay up. Stay humble. Handle business. Stand on business. Peace out.